Let's break down the low sweep. The low sweep is a step in the Turkish get up that is arguably one of the most important steps in the movement, if not the most important. There are a lot of different variations of ways that you can do the low sweep, high bridge being an example, and it all just boils down to your skill set, your strength level, your amount of experience, and personal preference. I prefer doing the low sweep. If I'm lifting a very heavy kettlebell, I like to keep my hips low to the ground for that sweep so that I just kind of sneak my body underneath the kettlebell instead of having to press my hips up and then bring my leg under. Like I said, just personal preference and depends on your skill set. So let's break down the low sweep. I'm going to show you in context first, and then I will break down the details for you. Hopefully this will help you get a heavier Turkish get up so you can get heavier kettlebells overhead, work your mobility while working that lift, and increase the time under tension of one side of your overhead kettlebell and shoulder work. So in context, your low sweep happens after the initial sit up or roll up, as I like to call it. We roll up onto the forearm, press up onto the hand. Now here's where your low sweep comes in. I'm going to try to get this extended leg, my left leg, underneath my body and try to place the knee on the floor, right? So I find my base position and then I lift the leg to sweep it under, and then I can continue with the rest of my Turkish get up all the way to standing. Now when I teach the low sweep, I usually start from the top down, just like if we were working eccentrically on a lift, and then I work the opposite going up into that low sweep. So let's talk about the base position first. The base is really important because we are going from 3 limbs on the floor to 2 limbs on the floor. So we want to make sure that our base is nice and solid and that those 2 limbs, opposite arm and leg, can hold all of your body weight and the weight that you have in the kettlebell in this sideways position, right? So we want to make sure that the base is nice and solid. So here's what you'll do. Starting from a half kneeling position, you're going to open up that front leg 90 degrees, about 90 degrees. Like I said, there are some variations for all of these steps and movements. The Turkish get up looks different on everybody. So about 90 degrees, we're opening up. You want to try to make sure that this foot is a little closer to your back foot than this back knee, right? So I'm opening up my right leg. I want to make sure that my right foot is a little more in line with my left foot back here than my left knee here. So I open up that right leg, and then you can turn your body towards that leg in the middle. And then we're going to sit this left hip down towards the left heel, open up the torso to the side, and then place that left hand on the ground. So I sit the hip down, I turn my body. Now here's where I have that very solid base position. I'm getting closer to the floor with the kettlebell, which is the goal, right? We're just trying to get the kettlebell up and down off the floor. So I've got this very solid 3-limb position, and now I need to shift my weight to 2 limbs. So as you place this left hand down, the positioning is important, right? We don't want to reach that hand too far away because as we shift onto this foot and hand, it might be too wide and unstable. We also don't want to keep it too close to that knee because it might be too small for this leg to pass through. We don't want it to be too far in front because of the same reason, too small to pass through. And we don't want this arm to be too far behind this leg because that could tip you backwards. So we want to find a very happy medium of all of those. So once I open up, I sit this hip down, my hand is going to go just about 6 inches in front of my left knee. Now that's my placement. We're going to try a few and make sure that we have our own position and placement of that hand where it's going to make sense to lift that bottom leg. Okay, so find the base. We go half kneeling, open that front leg. We're going to sit the hip down and place that left hand on the ground. You can reach the right arm up or you can keep it on your hip. But what we're going to do is we're just going to shift our weight to the right foot and the left hand from that 3-limb stable position to 2 limbs. And we're going to see if we can lift the left leg off the ground, bring it back down, and stand up. So based on how you did with that, we're going to adjust our base position and try it again. So sit that hip down. You can reach the right arm up if you'd like. right? Find a base position, either similar to what you just did or maybe try something different. We're gonna lift the bottom leg, hold, just kind of curl it into you, bring the leg down and up. So your body is gonna shift around here. We are shifting our weight onto that hand and foot. So shifting, moving the body is going to happen in this position, in this movement. And then let's try that one more time. As we go here. And again, as we lift, we're not trying to lift those hips up towards the ceiling. Try to keep those hips nice and low. Place it back down and rest. Now let's switch sides. Let's try that on the other side. So I have the left foot in front, open out 90 degrees, sit that hip down, find a nice placement. We're gonna lift and hold. 3, 2, 1. Bring the leg back down and up. Let's try that again. Here, lift and hold. 3, 2, 1. Back down and up. Let's try one more time. It could be the same or different from the other side. Lift and hold. 3, 2, 1. And back up. So now that we have our base position, we've got our 3-limb solid base, and then we shift our weight onto 2 limbs, and we know that feels good. Let's talk about the top arm. So this arm, we always need to imagine that we're lifting 100, 150 pounds overhead, okay? If this arm is not stable, if I'm moving this arm around as I move my body underneath, that heavy weight is gonna take you off of your balance, and it's gonna crash to the floor, which obviously we don't want. So we go, if we're going top down, we're going from this overhead position to an abducted position from the shoulder, right? We're turning our body, and the goal is to keep this arm perpendicular to the floor. So we're turning our body here. But from this position in the low sweep, we're going from this abducted position back to an overhead position, because as the leg sweeps through, our body is more upright. The bicep is going to squeeze back towards that ear. And then the reverse on the way up. So we're gonna just do our half kneeling windmill. We're gonna drill finding that base position, but we're gonna keep the arm overhead. So no weight yet, you're just gonna reach the arm overhead. We're finding our base, and in doing that, we're going to practice keeping the arm perpendicular to the floor, which is basically the same movement that we do in the low sweep. So we're in this overhead position. We're gonna hinge at the hip, find the base position. Now shift your weight and try to lift the bottom leg, but keep that arm perpendicular to the ceiling. Bring that bottom leg down. Come on up. Now here's what happens as you go through that low sweep. We're squeezing the bicep back to the ear. And we'll do that again. Find the hinge and your base position. Shift your weight onto the hand and the foot. Hold. Keep this arm perpendicular to the floor. Bring that bottom leg down. Come back up, and we'll try that one more time. Hinge at the hips. Find that solid base. Shift your weight onto the base. Bring that leg down and reverse. Let's go to the other side. Left leg is in front. We're gonna open out, press that arm. Imagine you have 100, 150 pounds overhead. We're gonna hinge, find that base position. Keep this arm perpendicular as we shift onto that base. Hold. Slowly come back down and up. And again, 2 more times. Now all of these progressions could take a couple of weeks to a couple of months to get down. So you might not be able to get all of these steps in today, right now, but if you follow these progressions, then you will get that low sweep nice and smooth. So now let's talk about the bottom leg as we sweep, the actual movement. We have our base position. We have what happens with this arm up top. Now we just need to sweep the leg through and sit down on that hip. If the left leg is coming underneath, you're going to think about sitting on your left hip. The right hip is going to stay off the floor. This is key because as we come down from that Turkish get up, or even when we come up, our body is not sitting straight up this way, okay? This is not as efficient to get our body underneath the kettlebell as this, okay? So I am in that bicep squeezing towards the ear position, but it's a little bit rotated so that I can shift onto this base to bring the leg under. And same thing for underneath, right? I want to keep this right hip off the floor because I'm going to come down to my left side from there. So all you have to think about for now, if the left leg is sweeping under, left hip is going to be down, right hip is going to be up. So I'll show you what I mean. all we're gonna do from this position, we find our base, right? We shift our weight onto the base. We're just gonna bring this hip down and that leg through just slightly. So the knee is gonna stay bent, this arm is squeezing by the ear, our body's a little more upright, and then we're gonna go back to that base position, shift your weight back onto the hand and foot, and bring the leg back under. All right, so from the front, we'll try 3 of those, and each time we're gonna extend that leg a little bit further, okay? So we're gonna hinge at the hip, find the base, make sure that arm's perpendicular to the ceiling. We're pressing up 100 pounds. Shift your weight onto the foot and the hand, lift the leg. Then you're slowly gonna bring the leg through and sit down on that left hip, okay? Now we're gonna drive down through the floor again with that left hand and right foot. Lift that leg, slide it right under. The goal is to end up in that 90-degree angle once again, right? Let's do that twice more, extending that leg. So we'll shift our weight, slowly bring the leg through, try to extend it a little bit more, and then press down with the foot and the hand, lift the leg, slide it underneath, and then we'll try that one more time. As you bring the leg back under, you're gonna have to lift the hips, but you wanna lift them as little as possible. So you wanna keep them as close to the floor as you can while bringing the leg underneath you. That's gonna be the most efficient way to get this low sweep done. So we shift into the hand and the foot, try to extend that leg all the way as you sit down to your hip. This is hard. A lot of times we end up crashing onto that hip and falling backwards this way. Okay, so we want to try to do this extension nice and slow. You could even slide your foot on the ground a little bit until you really get used to that balance and lengthening the lever of the leg away from you. So from here, just a slight lift in those hips. We're shifting weight onto that hand and foot. I try to lift the leg right away so I don't tip over here. So I try to lift so I make sure I'm fully on the hand and the foot before I bring that leg through. And let's try the other side. Show you from this angle. Okay, we open. Left arm is up, sit the hip back towards the heel. We shift onto that solid base, bring that right hip down, right? Left arm comes next to that ear. And then we shift our weight again, bring that right leg under. And then let's do it again, shift. Now this time extend the leg a little bit more if you can. We're on that right hip, left hip is up, lift, and bring that leg back through. We're gonna do that one more time, shift, bring the leg under, and then lift, and bring it back through. One more point about this low sweep, bringing that leg under. We want the hand, hip, and the foot to end up in this sort of diagonal line. So what we don't want is to slide those hips way out in front. Once again, this puts the shoulder and the spine at risk if we have a heavy kettlebell. We want to drop that hip right between the back of the hand and that heel. All right, so I will show you, we'll go through a weighted version, one each side with external load. We're gonna slide down and back up, and then I'll show you the entire thing with the Turkish Get Up and how that low sweep fits in. So we'll press overhead, open out, find that solid base position. We're gonna shift our weight onto the hand and the foot, lift the bottom leg, slowly extend and lower that hip. Make sure we're in that diagonal line. Then we reverse it, shift the weight onto the hand and the foot, lift that bottom leg, pull it under, keeping the hips as low as possible, and we'll switch sides. So I got my left side, finding that solid base, shift onto the hand and the foot, slide that leg underneath, right hip is down, left hip is up, then we reverse that, lift, bring it under, and rest. All right, so I'll show you one Turkish Get Up for the context so you can really see it. All right, so I start by rolling to the side, pressing up to the hand. Now I'm in that low sweep position. I've got my solid base. Lift the leg, bring it through, bring the hips underneath me to standing, and then I reverse it back down. Here's my low sweep. I set up that base, shift my weight, slowly bring that leg under, and all the way back down to the ground. And there you have it. That's your low sweep. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please share, like, and subscribe. If you have any questions about this movement, drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.